I'm going to get to your Monday night free selection here on the Bears and the Vikings, an interesting game with a lot of different facets, and I'll discuss them and give you my breakdown of the contest in just a second. But first, I want to go backwards and take a look at my Sunday selection, which certainly didn't turn out well, as I was going for my third straight 10-time NFL winner. It was on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and like I said, we know how that one turned out. And listen, it was a loss, and I can accept it. Do I like it? No, but I can accept it because the bottom line is, you're gambling. You're going to lose sometimes. And as I've always said here on the video reports, on the sites, from the days I had my nationwide radio show, from the time that I had my national tip sheet, losing is part of gambling. It's part of life. If you're going to be a gambler, if you're going to be in my business as a handicapper and a gambler, not only are you going to lose sometimes you're going to lose a lot. Losing streaks are part of the game, just as much as winning streaks. Now, if you're good at what you do, you'll have more winning streaks than losing streaks. You'll have more winning days than losing days. But I've always said that to do this realistically, you have to absolutely accept the fact that you are going to have some miserable stretches. But here's the thing, and I've said it many times here, and I've owned up to it. I've talked about losing more on these videos over the years than winning because, listen, I'm not hiding anything. It's total transparency. I've had a 54-day winning streak once, okay? I've had numerous winning streaks, and they've been many. But I have had streaks where I've lost 6-7 days in a row. I've lost, oh my God, it was like 6 months ago. I lost 13 out of 14 days. It happens. But the one thing I have never lost is my confidence because I've always known that I'm going to win again. Absolutely has never questioned the fact that I'm going to win again. Sometimes it's just bad luck. Sometimes it's just fate. Sometimes it's just one of those things. Sometimes when I'm losing, my wife has often said to me many, many times over the year, well, what are you doing differently? I'm doing nothing differently. It's just sometimes the games just don't fall your way. Look at last Monday night. If you had the Washington Redskins last Monday night, you deserved to win. I had the Kansas City Chiefs. I didn't deserve to win, but I won and you didn't. It's just one of those things. The fickle finger of fate sometimes points in your direction, and sometimes it just gives you the finger. You know what I mean? But I've never lost confidence. What bothers me about yesterday's game with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I wrote about it on my site here, is the fact that Ben Roethlisberger, a guy who has made me a lot of money over the years, a lot of money, said after the game, and this is an exact quote, I don't think so, but maybe I am. Maybe I don't have it anymore. That's a guy and that's a team. As long as he's the quarterback, I'll never bet on him again. Because that's a guy that's questioning his confidence. That's a guy who I understand. It's after the game. And after games, just like people after arguments, you say things in the heat of passion. You are certainly shaken after you throw 5 interceptions. You are certainly in a crisis mode after 2 of those interceptions are returned the other way and taken to the house. I understand that after that type of devastating performance, when you get blown out at home by the Jacksonville Jaguars, when you know Al DeMarco had a 10-dime play on it, you're crushed. Okay, I make light of it. And I understand that in that particular time frame, you're questioning and you have a lot of self-doubt. But there's a guy who seemingly has lost his confidence. Would Brett Favre have ever made that statement? Aaron Rodgers ever made that statement? No way. No way in the world. That's a guy you can't bet on anymore. I'll never put another penny on Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers as long as he is quarterbacking the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because the next time the chips are down, the next time there's a tight situation, how can you ever have confidence in Ben Roethlisberger when Ben Roethlisberger, after yesterday's game, clearly doesn't have confidence in himself any longer? Just wanted to point that out because I can accept the fact yesterday that was a mistake. Because what's that old thing that they like to say? What is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's how I would feel if I ever bet on the Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger again. And that's not the guy. And clearly, Roethlisberger has taken a hell of a lot of pounding, playing behind some poor offensive lines over the years and also holding the ball too often. Looking at what a lot of the Pittsburgh writers have been saying, apparently he's lost a few miles per hour off of his fastball over the past few years, and it's certainly affected the way that he's been able to deliver the ball, not having the ability to thread the seam, to deliver the ball in tight spaces as he once did, trying to force the ball, resulted in a number of those interceptions yesterday. So that certainly has not helped matters, but I'll tell you what. That was quite a performance yesterday. Watching my money go down the tubes that way, that hurt. But watching what he said afterwards, hearing what he said afterwards, that hurt even more. So let's move on here today, and let's get to this complimentary play tonight. By the way, I'm just looking at my baseball results here earlier today, and what is it with baseball managers when they get to the postseason, they suddenly think they're managing the All-Star game? I don't understand what the hell was going on with the Astros manager, A.J. Hinch, today, bringing Justin Verlander in. Why do baseball managers think that suddenly you're going to take premier starters who have been starters all their life and, hey, just because it's their scheduled day to pitch, we'll bring them in out of the bullpen, something they're not accustomed to, and expect them to pitch magnificently? Not all guys are wired to do so. You have a bullpen that got you to where you were, which is the baseball postseason. Why not use them instead of bringing in Verlander, who promptly serves up a 2-run homer? I, of course, have a very vested interest as we speak right now. The game between the Red Sox and the Astros in the top of the ninth inning. I have a 15-time series release on the Astros, so I need them, of course, to win this game. Of course, they could go back home in game number 5, and I have Dallas Keuchel on the hill, and I'd feel confident there. But I just don't understand baseball managers sometimes. They get to the postseason, and it's like, again, what's the other cliche? Dance with the girl you brought? I don't understand it. Okay, let's talk about this game here tonight. So, you know that the Bears at Soldier Field absolutely own this series. I mean, absolutely own this series. They have won 8 of the last 9 meetings at home in this series. 13-2 since 2001 at Soldier Field. 14-2 overall playing at home in this series, dating back to 2000, because one game when Soldier Field was being renovated, they played in Champaign. They won that game as well. So it's been a one-sided series. And you've got the Vikings tonight are going to give Sam Bradford the start, supposedly, even though he only returned to practice last Thursday and Friday for the first time since September 21st. Of course, he had that first game this season against New Orleans. We all saw it in the nationally televised game when he was magnificent, 27 for 32, 346 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then he had the ongoing knee problems. Case Keenum started the next couple of games, went 1-2 as a starter. Played well, 755 yards, but once they got near the end zone, he couldn't get him in there. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I would be firmly in the Vikings corner tonight if Dalvin Cook, the rookie out of Florida State, did not get hurt last week and suffer a season-ending ACL injury, because he had accounted for 444 total yards. He had accounted for over 30% of the Vikings' total yardage offensively through the first 4 games of the season. His loss is huge. So what are the Vikings going to do? Well, you remember what last year they couldn't run the ball, and that was one of the problems. So during the offseason, they drafted Cook. They went out and signed Latavius Murray, the former Oakland Raider, but he is not 100% healthy because he had all-season ankle surgery. He's only had 14 carries through the first 4 weeks of the season for 38 yards. He's going to be asked to carry an increased load, and he's not a great receiver out of the backfield like Cook was. So that is going to be a problem. Now, we know on the Bears side, they had enough of Mike Glennon. Didn't everybody in Chicago have enough of Mike Glennon? And they're going to start the rookie Mitch Trubisky. So he looked okay in the preseason, but he had some problems reading the defenses. And, you know, the Vikings are going to come at him. And the Vikings have a very, very, very good secondary. Strong at safety with Harrison Smith. Also, very strong at cornerback as well. They have a very good pass rush. And the Bears receivers are not that good because of injuries that robbed them of their 2 top receivers. The entire Chicago pass receiving wide receiver corps, 39 catches in 4 games, 426 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's nothing. Absolutely nothing. But what the Bears do well is run the ball. And that's what hurt the Vikings in the 2 matchups a year ago. In fact, the Bears' 2 biggest rushing outputs in terms of single game production last year both came against the Minnesota Vikings last season. 158 yards in week number 8, 183 yards in week 17. And Juwan Howard had 288 yards in 2 games against Minnesota last year with 5.9 yards per carry averaged in those 2 games. And remember, Howard has a sidekick this year. Did I say Juwan Howard? That's the former NBA player. It's Jordan Howard. I'm sorry. And now he's got the rookie with Tara Cohen. You know, this is a good ground game that Chicago has. Now, Minnesota's been very good at stopping the run. They're number 3 in the league right now, but they haven't faced anybody that can run the ball as effectively as Chicago has. So Chicago's going to look to run the ball, take the pressure off the rookie quarterback. Meanwhile, Minnesota's going to look to put the pressure on the rookie quarterback, and Minnesota is untested as far as I'm concerned, although statistically they're number 8 at stopping the run, or number 3 at stopping the run. I don't think they've been tested that well this season. I think it's a fascinating game. I'm going to cast my vote with Minnesota here, okay? Even though I have questions about their defense, even though I have questions on whether or not Bradford, after the 3.5-week layoff, how effective he's going to be, and whether or not Bradford, who was very effective last year, completing 72% of his passes last season, whether he's going to be effective again this year once again without an effective ground game. Remember, he had no ground support last year, completing 72% of his passes. Big deal. What did that do for the Vikings? Absolutely nothing. You remember the Vikings season collapsed last season when they went to Chicago, lost on Halloween, went downhill from there, had no ground game. Is the same thing going to happen here tonight? Chicago's dominated this series at home. It's a 3.5-point line, so I'm willing to buy the half point down on Minnesota. But again, I just couldn't pull the trigger on this game. I think it could go either way. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I could see it like 20-13, 17-13, right around the number, definitely. Thus, again, Minnesota minus the points, buying the half point down. Wouldn't be surprised if Chicago came up. That's why it's a free play. But I do lean a little more toward the Vikings in this one as the play because I just have a issue going with the rookie quarterback. Oh, right thing I came across. You would have to go back to, let me just look this up. I took a note of this. The last time a rookie quarterback won a game starting in the middle of the season, this is, not the first week, in the middle of the season, the last time a rookie quarterback started in the middle of the season and won his professional debut, you'd have to go back to 2001 when Michael Vick did it with the Atlanta Falcons. Since then, quarterbacks in this position, 0-10. Something to consider. Now, Trubisky has had the extra time because, of course, the last time the Bears played was that Thursday night loss at Green Bay. So he's had 11 days of prep time. But does that mean a lot? I don't know. So Minnesota's the play. But again, it's a reluctant play. So we'll see how it turns out. And we'll talk again tomorrow.